now the last century, the middle of the 1950s. Period after World War II, we have a lot of returning veterans coming back from the war with flying skills. And basically hobby-type flying, general aviation, really took off in the 1950s. You also have to take a look at the context of the area. Eisenhower administration was active at the time, and they were looking for a place to build a new international airport, which is now Dulles. But they were considering, and the federal government was actually buying up land around Burke, Virginia, because Burke was the original site that was being considered for the airport. At that same time, there was consideration for another airport to be built in Woodbridge in the Belmont Bay area, near where the old Harry Diamond lab was. That kind of fell through. That never really happened. But at the time, there was a visionary, one of the local residents by the name of Steve Wyckoff, who saw the need. He saw had a vision for a growing area here and the need for a general aviation airport. So, armed with some construction equipment and a couple of special use permits, we were kind of surprised there was more than one. In the late 1950s, he embarked on the actual construction of the airport, which pretty much it was open and in full operation by the dawn of the decade of the 1960s. And it served as a very important actual community focal point. There was a camaraderie among the pilots. A number of people took their flying lessons here, got their licenses. The area wasn't very developed. Steve, his son, who will be introducing you in a few minutes, the son of Steve Wyckoff, told me that when they got hungry sometimes, they would actually fly down to Shannon Field in Fredericksburg, because there was a hamburger joint near there, to grab a hamburger, then fly back. Hard to fathom that.
I hear you, yeah. Okay, I'd like to thank everybody involved in this. This is literally overwhelming. I had no idea that this interest existed at this level. I had no idea that there were people that were as dedicated as Dennis and the organization involved. So this is gratifying at a level that I just never ever expected. And you characterized it very well. It was strictly a family deal, and the camaraderie was the highlight of the entire situation. People that owned airplanes and who were taking instructions would come there just to spend the day, with no thought that they were going to actually fly or whatever. It was just a social situation, and that just really made it special, because our family was involved with other families and all that, so it wasn't just a business at all. It was very much the opposite, and that's kind of what was, I think, the undoing of the place, that my father didn't feel that he could expand it economically and keep it with the same sort of core structure in terms of being friends and people that wanted to have just pure fun and not centered just around the flying.
So, but my story is that in 1977, as a Virginia Tech student, I had to come up here to a meeting. And I've been a pilot most of my adult life since age 16. And I flew a 1952 Piper Tri-Pacer, a fabric-covered airplane up here with two other individuals. I was the pilot in command, and I remember we had planned to land here. So I set up the landing, and when I turned on the final, we had a direct 90-degree crosswind, which makes it very difficult to line up on the runway. And I'll tell you when it was. Looking at my pilot logbook, it was on the morning of January 28th, 1977. So 42 years ago. So we lined up. I remember being worried about power lines. And what I remember was the runway being oriented to the left of the water tower. The airport rotating beacon to identify the airport location was located on the top of that tower. But I remember with that strong 90-degree crosswind, and the Tri-Pacer has a very narrow landing gear. And what that translates to for a pilot is it's very easy to do a wing over and catch a wingtip on a runway or a runway light. And it was a very narrow runway. I think it was about 10 feet wide. Very narrow runway. and it had a downward orientation that dipped and then came back up. So as you flare for the landing, the runway is falling away from you and you have to compensate. And so I think I know I'd passed over Old Bridge Road, and then made a decision to abort the landing and went to Manassas. Meantime, the people picking me up here went, "Where did he go?" And after a while, they figured out I'd gone to Manassas. We certainly didn't have cell phones for me to contact them. So that's my experience with the Woodbridge Airport.